How's it going, everyone? So this is what we have so far on the low poly. I've done a little bit more thinking as to how we're going to tackle this chapter. And as I mentioned in the other one, I think we're going to be sort of bundling together the low poly and the UV since there's a lot of duplication. And to speed things up quite a bit further, I think there's going to be a few key parts of this that I cover, and I'm going to go over in real time every single step of that as far as making the low poly. And then since there's so many little bits in the back and things that are just going to be repeating over and over again, I'll record that and then lightly commentate over it in post. So together we'll be doing, let's see, we'll be grabbing these guys. So pretty much the frame as well as the entire keyboard with the keys. So we'll be doing these pieces, and then once we're done those, I will just sort of record it and post that as its own chapter. So we'll do as many chapters as we need to get this stuff done. And I think that should be fine because pretty much everything that we would be doing here covers pretty much all the techniques that we're going to be doing for the rest of this stuff. The rest is just going to be taking quite a bit more time. So in order to sort of save space on Google Drive as well as to speed up the production of this, I'm just going to be sticking to this stuff, and if you follow along to sort of see how I handle all of this, then you should be good to tackle everything else, and then we will resume the commentated part when we're diving into the remainder of the UVs. This isn't going to be like the last part altogether, and then it's just sort of like you're on your own to set all that up. This is just for making the actual low poly. So let's start with this guy, which is probably going to take up the bulk of the time. So the shape is pretty much exactly where I want. The smoothness is all fine. The first thing that we can go ahead and do is straight up delete all the screws. We don't need any of them. Just double checking that. Pretty sure we're just baking all those down, but yeah, there wouldn't be any where it's sort of like protruding too much where we would have to actually model that in. These guys especially, because they're completely hidden altogether, so that was more for the Zbrush pass. So let's go ahead and start with these. So what I'm just doing right now is essentially just plugging in all the holes. We don't really need any of them since we're going to be baking down all of those screws. So I'm just merging those to the center, and then we'll clean them up in just a second. All that detail is surface, and if you're wondering how we know if something is going to be baked down or if it's something we're modeling in, pretty much just ask, is it affecting the silhouette? And having these sort of screw holes in here, we'll never get an angle where something's sort of bulging out like on the side or cutting out of a surface or something like that. So it's safe to assume for pretty much all of these that it's just something that we can go ahead and get rid of. As far as this stuff goes, we're going to have to clean up how this is all connected. So let's start lining up some of these edges to be a bit cleaner. So I'm just using the connect feature. You can either map that to a keyboard or you can go to the modeling toolkit and press connect. You can also just sort of use the cut tool for something like this. Totally up to you. And bridge that across. It's getting pretty narrow, but I think that is still fine. We're going to find a few areas like this that aren't too good. Super thin, not really needed. So I'm going to select those edges and go to collapse edges. That was me holding shift or right click to get to that menu. Here we're getting some interesting stuff. In fact, if I undo that, rather than deleting it, I might just want to better utilize the geo, because it seems like we're gonna have to do that over here. It looks like this is probably some residue of us beveling something at some point, and it looking much better on the outside than the inside. So anyways, we can get rid of those and we can start bridging these across. Like so. Let's see, we're now getting to this area. Just going to snap this here, as well as snap that there. Give this side a similar treatment. Let's go ahead and merge all that. As for this stuff, we can go ahead and connect this. Don't really need all this stuff going on. We're just, once again, just like in the last part, going through and making sure there's no polygons with more than 5 sides to them. So just sort of connecting things, making sure the polygons don't get too thin or too stretched or anything like that. So we'll do a quick pass on this, and there might even be a way for us to duplicate this geometry over to the other side. So I'm just going to continue doing that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Well, as far as the inside goes, it's looking pretty good. Can bridge that there. It seems like something weird's going on here. Is that a smoothing issue? Yeah, okay. We can just keep going. Just making sure nothing else weird is going on there. Okay. Okay. This here, I want to say is enough geometry, but I just want to sort of compare it directly to its high poly counterpart. So if we let that load in for a second. And I isolate this guy. So this is definitely a lot rounder, but I'm thinking when we bake it down, we're still gonna get this sort of round indent information on the low poly here. So I think that should do, and even if it's not, we can fix that really, really quickly later on. So I'm going to leave it be for now. We have these guys here that need to be connected to something. Okay, and we're getting to an interesting spot here. So we have this really round piece coming dangerously close to the edge. In fact, it's going right into the edge. I would honestly say with this, I don't like how thin this is getting down here, so I might even add in a triangle and just snap that to it. And merge that into place. And then from here, like a triangle that small should be fine. It's just if we were stretching one from here to here, it would get a little sketchy. So let's just keep connecting these guys to have it all fully closed off. Okay. I'm trying to think. The entire... we can pretty much mirror this entire front area minus this like hole, but I guess we are actually deleting this hole. So let's just sort of focus on, except for this guy here. And I guess this here, yeah, so pretty much everything behind this bar we can't mirror over, especially because of that as well. So let's just clean up where we can. This is rounded, so we're not going to want to mess with the shape, but we can sort of snap these guys up. There's a hole here which we don't want, so I'm going to snap that there. Put this here. And just sort of force everything down to the end here. I just want to merge this to double check that if we were to now move this, there's no weird hole or gap behind it. That would definitely cause some issues. This here can be snapped back since it's not really affecting the silhouette or anything. And we'll have to do a similar treatment on the outside here. Go ahead and merge the verts on that. Already looking a lot better. This, I might want to round out a little bit more. So let's think of the best way to do that. I think if I select all the edges except for the end ones, that's going to let us bevel it. And if I crank that all the way up, or most of the way, it should then let us get to a point where we can just sort of snap these guys. And merge it, and that's just making that a little bit smoother. Okay, we're going to have to start plugging some holes, but before we do that, let's just make sure we finish what we started here. I'm not quite sure what is going on here. I'm going to snap that there. To keep all this stuff flush. It seems like at some point I beveled that vertice. There's a lot of stuff going on here that we can just clean up. And ideally, when you're doing your mid-poly, cleaning up as you go is probably the smartest way to go about doing a lot of this stuff. But, you know, when you have sort of screws and everything sticking out all over the place, it's not always really an option, right? I think I did the same thing down here where I kind of beveled a vert by accident. Let's go ahead and merge all that. Okay, this here can be snapped all the way down, as can this, and that. Slide these over, and we could probably keep cleaning this up and always be finding new things to improve upon, but I'm just trying to get it to a point where it's pretty spot on, and then we can start to mirror things over. I think one of the big concerns right now is we're going to have to get rid of a lot of these holes. So let's do what we did before, where we select all the faces, delete them, and merge edges to center. If I'm not mistaken, this is connected, which is good. We can snap that there as kind of like an anchor point. Let's go ahead and clear up some of this stuff. And just sort of keep the pattern going. I can afford to snap this guy here. This is closing off that, so that's fine. But this now gives us a corner to drag all this stuff into. We also have this, but I'm feeling this is probably a bit more of an appropriate place. It's sort of adding a new spot to sort of break things up a little bit. I think the frame is looking pretty good. We can tackle the back in just a second. But let's get the front area and then see if we can start to mirror some things over. Okay. This here is looking a little weird. Let's see, let's go ahead and delete this first. That triangle is getting in the way a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and delete these. Get rid of that and see if we can just snap this to a corner, which would then let us snap this to this corner. And then for this really long bottom part, we could connect it there. Okay. Okay, that's closing off that stuff. Some weird shading here. I'm gonna auto smooth. That seemed to have done the trick. This area here, I feel like I want it to be smoother. So before we clean it up too much, let's just go ahead and bevel it. I wonder if it's gonna mess with this stuff a little bit. I'm just gonna Control B with those edges selected. It's definitely rounding it out more. But I think one segment will probably be good enough for this. Let's go ahead and connect that down here. Snap these back to where they're supposed to be. And continue the pattern along. Okay, what I'm going to do is once again bring in the high poly as kind of like a reference for this, so I can like realign these, and then we'll have a better idea as to how to fix this and clean it up a little bit. So I'm going to go into face mode, just sort of bring this up a little bit. We can go into our edge mode. Sort of wiggle these guys around until we're getting something like that. Like I mentioned in the last part, when you're getting that kind of like part low poly, part high poly, like they're cutting into each other, that's kind of what you're going for. So seem to be in a pretty good position all the way around. Just a few little cleanup points. It's looking pretty good overall. Just going to double check some of the spots we didn't look at before. This is all looking pretty good. Okay, cool. Let's get rid of the high poly. Remerge everything. And then with this, we need this guy to stay into place because this is actually changing the silhouette. But down here, we can actually move him into a different position. I think moving it forward is probably the best idea. The issue with that is now this triangle. So I'm going to delete that for now, and we'll come back to it in just a second. I'm going to snap this one forward. Like so. And then with this, it makes the most sense to continue that all the way forward. The inside, something kind of similar. We'll snap that forward, snap that forward, snap that forward. This guy has to stay in place for the silhouette. So let's go ahead and merge all those guys. And where does it leave us with this? We could connect it like this, and that's still going to mean we're going to have to connect this all the way down. I think that should be fine, but if it presents an issue, we can always just add a cut at the bottom and add a tiny bit more geo to sort of fix any baking issues we have. But I think it should be fine. So for now, let's just go ahead and snap this stuff. We do have this guy in the middle. I'm going to keep it for now because we're probably going to have to actually cut some geo and mirror it, so we might as well just leave that since we're going to use it in just a minute. Kind of want to poke around down here. Clean this up. There might be a chance that we actually never see this geo, so I might end up deleting it. Let me just double check, because we already did the feet for this guy. If we have our ZBrush, no, we definitely do see those. Okay. So good to know. We'll have to do something similar back here. This guy is something we can visit now. This hole definitely has a bit too much geo. We probably don't need this much detail for a piece that's almost never going to be seen. Especially if we're just going to be getting a glimpse of the edge and the normal detail will take most of it. This is pretty much just in case you get the camera underneath and you're trying to poke through. So I think that should be more than enough. I just went through and deleted every other edge. And then we're going to have to anchor this guy down. Sometimes when you delete the support loops, it doesn't like that very much. So let's just go ahead and start manually bridging. Since I deleted some of the edges that were connecting it, it didn't really have enough information to go off of as far as what the end gun is supposed to look like. So I'm just going to sort of add in some faces by bridging, and then if I go to fill hole, it'll let us do that, and then we can just sort of manually finish that up. Okay, same for the back side. This time I'm going to actually add in these support edges before I delete any current ones. So now, since I added some additional edges, it should be fine to delete those, and we can't guarantee, but I don't really expect any funny business. Okay. forgot to delete some of the vertices there. So if you catch stuff like that, of course, just sort of grab it as you go. And that'll do it for that part. We do sort of have to worry about how these connect on the bottom though. That edge there seems a little unneeded, so I'm going to connect it like so. Actually, it might be needed after all. This edge here seems to be a little problematic. We can close this off like so, and then close this off on this side like so. This edge here, right, it's not doing anything directly on its own, but it's connected to a ton of these screw holes. So let's go ahead and grow extension with shift period, or grow selection rather. And we can go ahead and just collapse all these guys and start to clean it up. It's getting really complicated around here. Let's just merge all these guys into one point, and then we'll figure out exactly where we're gonna dock him in just a second. So we'll merge. Put him here, very similar to what we did with the front side. Unless he's better, I think he's much better suited to go somewhere like right there. Less super skinny triangles sort of causing issues. We'll just continue the pattern where we dock it up there. Going to delete these edges for now. Let's go ahead and merge all this. And then I'm going to delete these for now. And I think it would be consistent to just sort of bridge these guys across like so. Bridge that across, keeping it just clean and easy. This then can be just sort of plopped on there. That guy can scoot over there. Yeah, we're starting to get a really clean looking mesh pretty rapidly. We did forget to extend these pieces out. We're not going to need those extra triangles. Let's see, the inside is relatively taken care of. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. This thing shouldn't be too hard to work with. Let's go ahead and delete these. And merge them off. So I think that's definitely one of the pieces that we can mirror over. So I'll leave that be as it is. Moving forward, this guy should be a pretty easy one. The slit here is something that we're going to bake down. It's just going to be easy normal information. So let's go ahead and delete that. Grab this edge here and collapse it. Do the same on this side. scale these guys in. Scale these guys in. And if we merge them, they should become one vertex, which means we can just control backspace that, and that should take care of that whole piece. This guy should be our next target. And we're getting pretty comfy with taking care of these screw holes, or whatever this one happens to be. I think this is just holding that bell in place. And just sort of continuing along, bridging these guys. Okay. This we can definitely afford to fix up a little bit. So control backspace to delete that, and we can just start bridging these across. Just saving a little bit of geo, but it all adds up, right? So with this part here, and I'm just going to auto smooth again so we get nice hard edges everywhere. For this part, I'm just going to check the high poly to see these cuts are pretty big, so I'm thinking we might not be able to actually bake them down. Let's check out the high poly. Yeah, if you're looking in from the back, you can definitely see the actual silhouette changing, but most obviously we're actually having this geometry going into it. So for that reason, I'm going to actually keep this geo here. Which is a lot of geometry, but this is definitely a bit of an overkill model, so I really don't think it's that big of a deal. The first thing I'm going to do is connect all these guys horizontally, and you're starting to notice when I'm connecting, it's taking a little bit longer. So in order to sort of reduce that time, I'm going to freeze transforms and delete history. So it's almost as if it's a brand new mesh. So now when I connect, it's doing it instantly. So as soon as it starts bogging down, I'm pretty sure it's the delete history that's doing that more than anything, but clicking those two should definitely make a pretty massive difference. I am curious though if I can select multiple and connect them. Did that work properly? Definitely not. Or did it? No, I'm pretty sure that did work. I was concerned that it was like connecting this edge to this edge and all the ones in between at the same time, but I think this is proper. If not, we will find out super quickly when we're doing UVs because they just will not unfold at all. But yeah, we seem to be able to connect that. No. Okay, so it definitely is not correct. Ay. Okay, good thing we tested that out first. Okay. We're gonna have to do these one at a time. I think I might even prefer the cut tool for this, just because I can just do it with one hand, because I can just right click when it's lined up and move on. Slightly faster. But more human error. It's going to take a long time no matter what. So just like in the last part, I will probably just speed this up until I'm done, just connecting over and over again, so there's nothing to really report on. Okay, so that's that. I want to see now, because we're going to have to connect all of these lines to the corners. I want to see if there's a quick way to cheat the system. I'm going to try something, and if it doesn't work, then we'll have to sort of do it the old-fashioned way. But let's like cut, say, something like this. And if I hit face and shift right click poke face, it should then connect lines to all of these. So this looks promising. Let's just sort of snap these. Not merge to center, just merge vertices. That is a ton of super skinny lines, so I think I'll do something like that. I think I undid this. Okay, I think I'm going to do something like that, but I'm also going to add a cut in the middle. Just so that way so that this way essentially I can snap these to the middle as well as the ends, and that's not going to create so many super skinny triangles. And I'm just closing this off so that I don't actually have to add all these unnecessary edges through the middle, just one point here, and I'm closing it off as soon as possible. So let's use that technique. Essentially we can say, let's take from here to halfway through, which is sure right about here. We can grab that and poke face. We can snap that and snap that to the corner, which is still creating a lot of skinny triangles, but it's definitely better than before, because now we can, not Alt X, what am I trying to do? Because now we can Control Shift X, and make a cut to this half, poke face, snap that there, snap that there, snap that there. Okay, that's a lot more contained in a much more organized way. I don't think it's going to be exactly mirrored, but I think that's okay because the this actual mesh isn't exactly mirrored, but let's just try and replicate that as best as we can. So we're going to grab here, here, and about halfway, which is here. We can then simply poke face. And do something like that. This is a pretty cool technique. I didn't think of this ahead of time, but it definitely gets the job done. All right, so there was a bit of a crash there, and I sort of cleaned up some stuff. Not like clean up the mesh too much, but I had to sort of go back and reload some stuff. We lost a little bit of data. I just caught us back up, and I just essentially finished this off. So I showed you guys what I was doing, and I just did it to the rest of this piece. There should only be a few more things that we have to clean up, and then we can just start duplicating this all around. Let's continue along and kind of get rid of these screw holes. This sort of back corner will probably be the trickiest part, but I believe that's all that's left. Pretty sure. So let's go ahead and take care of this. Very standard, exact same thing we've been doing. This whole back piece though is definitely going to be probably one of the harder parts, like I said, as far as properly getting the topology good, but it really shouldn't take too much time. And let's just start with the stuff that we know we can do really well, aka getting rid of these screw holes. Merge those to the center, and then I'm just gonna snap that down there. We have an X here, we don't really need that. Let's just keep it as a quad, or in this case 2 tries making up a quad. Super simple. So yeah, let's start going ahead and cleaning some of this up. So we kind of have this line here, and we have a lot of stuff merging into it. So it would probably be wise in this case to just leave it. We could try and move it over, but there's really no point. If anything, I'm just going to snap it so that it's straight down here and looks a little bit more clean. The reason I'm okay with just leaving extra geo here is just because of this situation. There's really no other way to do it cleanly without causing some kind of issues. So I want to go ahead and move forward with that in place. Okay, so we had a crash there and it saved where we were. So these screw holes are still gone. Something about this mesh is not necessarily corrupted, but very delicate. So I'm going to do everything I can to kind of make it trick itself into thinking it's a different mesh. So I want to duplicate this and move it over. And then with this one selected as the primary mesh, since it's a new one with a new ID, we can select the other one and combine it, and then delete everything on this side, and that might have tricked it into thinking it's its own new mesh. We can of course always merge vertices, and we can freeze transforms and delete history. Those tricks on their own usually do the trick. But let's see, if we keep getting some crashing, this might be a bit trickier than anticipated. So let's go ahead and merge that. This is what I did last time to sort of cause it to crash. I'm going to hit Control Backspace to delete that. Okay, it's so far so good. And delete that. Looks like we're in a better position than we were before. Let's go ahead and clean up some of this stuff. Snap that there. Snap that there since we have this guy jutting out. Okay. Can snap this off to the side. Looking good. Can merge all of that. I'm also just going to get rid of these. Really don't need to. I just think it looks a little bit better for now. Can move this stuff to the corner. I think that might honestly be all that really needs to be done there. Auto smooth to make it look good. Then it's just mainly this area here, which once again is pretty easy. Sort of triangulating that. We do have a bit of a mess over here. But doesn't seem to be as complicated as I thought at first, so that's a lot better. Cool. Gonna have to cut that one off and then have something to tie these guys down to. Okay. This guy here, of course, just like the rest of the screws, we can go ahead and get rid of this stuff. And I'm just going to check the high poly because we have that going all the way through, but I can't remember if it's being plugged with screws on both sides. So let's hide the ZBrush layer. Right, we made this into a new mesh, so put that back on. We'll go to the high poly layer. It's going to take a second to sort of jump into place. Let's turn off that wireframe and plugged at the top, plugged at the bottom. Yeah, so we can just completely plug this from all angles, which is good. Put that there. Merge all that. And the final one. Cool. It's a little bit of additional cleanup on this guy, just like any of the rounder or more cylindrical ones. Just going to give it this treatment. Okay. This part already seems to be taken care of. And if I'm not mistaken, that should be everything on the left side. I'm going to start sort of Frankensteining this and stitching it over. So the only things we're really trying to keep are this back bar exactly as it is. And this guy. I think everything else we're trying to duplicate over. So let's see. Also just going to double check that this stuff is doing okay. Oh, the inside. We did not stitch the inside like we should have. So it's always good just to double check that stuff. Okay, cool. Let's start moving some stuff over. We'll start with some of the easier parts. Okay, that seems to be two verts directly on top of each other. But yeah, let's start by stitching. Let's see if we can just detach the pieces that we need to keep and then just slice everything else in half. So this guy we need to keep. So I'm going to shift right click, extract faces. So that's one piece we're keeping. We need to keep this. So shift, right click. Actually, before we do that, we need to actually take care of this guy properly. We never anchored him down anywhere. Okay, now if we go back to faces, we can detach this guy pretty confidently. Let's just grow selection. Making sure we don't have any additional geo. Let's go and check out our wireframe. Seems to be good. Shift right click, extract faces. What else do we not want to have flipped over? This hole. I guess we never really finished this as good as we could have. Let's fill hole. Merge faces to center. Snap this over, snap it forward. And then I guess just continue this along. Gonna add that line there because we were getting some weird shading issues. So if I go and connect it across, it'll kind of average that out a little bit better, which is gonna be pretty handy. And then this might be better if I snap it up. We're getting a pretty skinny triangle there, but I don't think it's that bad, all things considered. Yeah, it's really not horrible. This stuff on the sides. Okay. So what else should we be detaching? Stuff that doesn't mirror. Yeah, pretty much just this, and I think we're good. Which might be easier said than done, all things considered. Might be easier from the top-down view. So let's isolate this in top-down. Select it like so. And there will be a bit of cleanup since this is not perfectly symmetrical, but still going to save us a ton of time. Regardless, I just really need to make sure I'm not catching any extra geo. Like this will be an area that we'll have to do a bit of extra repair on, but I think it should be fine. Just in case, let's go ahead and save really quick. Cool, so with that being done, this guy is pretty much ready to be sliced in half. We can just extract these faces as well. So we have these guys, which are the more unique ones, and we can combine them just so they're easier to get a hold of later. I suppose we do have this as well. So let's go ahead and grab all this stuff. Double check we're not missing anything. We can extract that. Let's just pull it over just to really make sure it's okay. Looks pretty good. Yeah, we can combine those as well. And that leaves us with just this. So if we add a cut down the middle, instead of deleting this, I'm just going to take this side and shift right click extract faces. And I'm doing that just so that when I mirror this, I make sure that everything's more or less completely flush. I don't want to mirror it at an awkward angle and then everything is slightly off. So this is just to make sure. And I'm going to move our pivot to the center of the world, freeze transforms, delete history, and mirror X. Can have some fun cleanup with that later. But it definitely seems like if I turn on wireframe, like an identical one-to-one kind of placed on top perfectly. Which is great. All that means is that I didn't put this cut directly in the middle. So let's go ahead and merge that. And just to be double sure, let's turn this off and check it with how everything else interacts. These guys should be pretty good dead giveaways because they're supposed to be completely flush. We still have, oh, I guess that was another unique piece. We had something plugging in there. So let's undo that. So this is before we mirrored it over. It's just two separate pieces. Let's go ahead and grab this. I'm just going to grab this whole plate actually and extract the faces on it. And attach that with these pieces. So we can go back to this now. Go to mirrored over. Yeah, everything seems to be lining up flawlessly. Just a couple weird things obviously that we're going to have to clean up because it's not perfect. So let's go ahead and delete this side. Tighten these guys and merge the verts. delete that. It should be good. Let's grab those additional pieces so we can start cleaning this up. So everything on the left side should be fine and just snap perfectly. It's just going to be a matter of fixing this stuff. So this one's probably one of the easier ones. We just have to add cuts here and here. Close those cuts off like we would anything else. Delete the face that's underneath. And that guy should be in position for when we attach and merge it. This is another easy one. Since there's just a lack of something here, we can fill the hole. Just snap that over there. Delete that. I guess we forgot to grab some of this geo before. This hole in theory should be the exact same on both sides, so that should be good. This is more where some of the problems are going to come from, but once again, pretty easy. I'm just going to extrude that down and merge, and then we get a vert out of it, and we can snap that down. Was that everything? I'm gonna go ahead and combine these and merge. Legs are good, back is good. This part is properly welded, I assume. Well, minus that. Just means that that side is also wrong, so I'm just going to go ahead and quickly do that. I guess I deleted a face here at some point. We can fill a hole on that. And I think this was a little bit different. Let's go ahead and turn this off. I can't remember if that's a little bit different. Let's go ahead and bring in our high poly to see how these compare. Honestly, they seem more or less the same, so I'm cool with keeping that. I might just pull these out a little bit more. And then for this one, actually pull it back a bit. High poly really starts to chug right about now, but it definitely seems like this guy is pretty much mostly complete. What I would probably want to do now is, yeah, let's bring the high poly back, and we'll have that object and this one selected. We can go to our high poly here and click this box until it's R. R won't let us select it, so we can just sort of go through and do a pass, making sure everything is tight and connected. So this looks good. This here looks good, so we did adjust the other side. This is a tight, snug fit, which is looking a lot better than I expected. I don't want to mess with that too much because there's a piece on top of it. This all seems really pretty much exactly what we want, where we just have a little bit of the high poly poking through, but mostly low poly. This stuff, I suppose I could stretch out a little bit. That'll do that. Super cool. Yeah, as far as the shape conforming to it, it seems pretty spot on. No matter where we're looking, this was an area I was a bit worried about for how round it is. But I think if I just grab these and pull them down a bit, that should pretty much cover that. The roundness of this might need a bit more, just because we can. So I'm just selecting these edge loops, and I'm just going to hit Control B just to give them a bit more geo. We're going overboard with the geo anyways, we might as well make it all look good. I'm hesitant to do it here, but I think it might be honestly the correct thing to do if I just bevel that. Just going to mean we have a little bit more cleanup to do, but I think that's probably going to do it once we have that done. Let's turn off the high poly. These guys are good. We just have to address this area that we forgot to do before duplicating. And this guy. It's a bit of a tricky angle just to look at, but we'll just connect those guys. And that's it. So that mesh is, yeah, it's quite a bit. So it's coming in at 3,800 tries or 2,200 faces. Quite a bit for part of a single prop, like ridiculous. That's kind of what we're going for with this entire thing. I do want to check. Just going to move this aside. I kind of want to just round this a little bit because it's so front and center. And it's something that's actually affecting the silhouette, right? So I think rounding that a little bit is going to be justified, but let's hide that. Pull these down. This might be something I could Once I merge them, that is, that could be something I do. Interesting. There's an edge here, which would look much better going this way, which would then allow us to delete these. Snap this here. And do the same on the other side. Let's just mimic that. In a perfect world, we would have caught these things obviously before we duplicated them over, but get rid of these. Merge this over like that. Can connect it that way. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. Merge it all, and that should do it for this guy. Who knows? There might be a couple random pieces like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's hard to say. Chances are there's probably some face on here that's more than 4 sides, but realistically, we'd pick up on that when it's baking or when we're doing our UVs. If there's any issues, that'll probably point it out. It seems like everything is good though, and even if it's not, having a, what is going on here? That is going on. Okay, good catch. Yeah, having an n-gon or a face with more than 4 sides isn't really the biggest deal. Like when I'm working, I do that all the time. It's just mostly for keeping things consistent and controlling our bakes a little bit better. So with that being said, I think that'll do it for this part. Sorry for the technical issues and having a bunch of crashes and interruptions. Honestly, I think that won't happen anymore. This is definitely the most complex part as far as all the booleans and cuts and stuff and random improper geometry. Most of it is coming into this guy. The next part, we're going to be handling the keyboard. We're going to be doing a lot more duplicating and UVs and whatnot. And the good thing about that is all that geometry is pretty clean. We cleaned it up in the last part, so it should be good. This was the big sort of intimidating one where there was a lot of improper geo, but that seems to have all been taken care of. We'll tackle the keyboard, we'll do the rest of it a lot faster and in a more sped up manner, and then we'll dive into the UVs. So thank you guys for watching this part. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully your work's becoming a lot cleaner at this point. And yeah, I will catch you in the next part. See ya.